In today's video, I wanted to show you some examples of strong multiclass combinations that you might consider in your Baldur's Gate 3 playthroughs. Those will be just some of the many builds, and I'm sure people will come up with way more, especially when the game releases, but those are just some of my favorites, and I am almost sure they will do well when the game fully comes out. Always remember that multiclassing is not something you have to do. In fact, it is recommended for newcomers to avoid it on their first playthrough. However, with Larian confirming respecialization being available, you can freely experiment with builds and change it almost any time in case you don't like it. 5th edition is quite forgiving when it comes to builds, so don't be afraid to create something you are fond of yourself, but I will do my best to give you some examples that you might be interested in, or consider some strong synergies between the classes. I just wanted to mention that I did not include my favorite Gish builds, because I already have the video with my favorite spellsword classes, so if you want to go check out those combinations, you can check it out in the description below. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and let's get into it. To create a strong multiclass character, you have to think about what you are gaining from a given class and what you are giving up in return. It can be an SC, ability score improvement, which you gain every 4 levels except for the fighter who gets 2 more, or a feat and also some class features. For example, a paladin gets an improved aura on level 6 and 7, or most martial classes will get an extra attack on level 5. But on the other hand, when multiclassing, you can gain some great features, like dipping 3 levels into fighter gives you very powerful abilities like action surge, improved critical or second wind, and also combat style, not to mention all the proficiencies of a fighter, so most weapons and armors. And with Baldur's Gate 3 letting you use the respecialization feature, it lets you think about what will be optimal on your current level, and then you can respec into the version that you prefer yourself. Meaning you can stay as a pure class for a while, for example to level 5 or 6, and then think about respecing your character to something else when you get more levels under your belt, so you can create a more powerful version of yourself. Build 1. Barbarian Fighter. I actually covered barbarian builds and this one a bit in my barbarian video, so you can go check it out as well, but for now let us focus on this particular combination. So if you decide to multiclass your barbarian, consider 3 levels of fighter, because by just 3 levels of fighter you are going to get action surge, second wind, and potentially improved critical or battlemaster maneuvers depending on the subclass you will choose. You also get a fighting style as well as a little extra AC or damage. Also think about the alternative barbarian berserker 4 levels and champions 8 levels of the fighter. You will get great synergy with the champion and half-orc because you're gonna get the brutal critical from the half-orc and the improved critical of the champion, not to mention the powerful reckless attack from the berserker. And you will also get to keep all 3 of your S's. So let's break down how much damage this build actually does. So when you get to the 9th level, you will roll an extra damage die as a barbarian, and then factor in the champion's double crit chance on top of that. And if you reckless attack, you're gonna get advantage on your attack roll, which further increases your odds of getting a crit. So imagine combining haste, berserker rage, reckless attack, even bigger crits from your half-orc race. That means that when you factor in the action surge and all the other things we're gonna have going for you, you can do up to 6 attacks per round. And if you also factor in taking the great weapon master feat, you will be able to annihilate or severely damage anything in the game on the first round alone. So summarizing, get barbarian to level 5, then 4 levels of fighter, and then respecialize on level 9 to a barbarian 4 and fighter 5 in order to both get the extra attack feature and all the goodies from the berserker. And you can finish the build off as a fighter to grab the 2 extra S's, because fighters get an extra ability score improvement on level 6. I have a feeling that despite having no spellcasting, this build is going to be really strong, especially if you can build a party around it and buff him even more with spells, making for an amazing frontliner who will also dish out the most damage if you're gonna buff him properly. Next up, we got the very popular and edgy Gloomstalker build. I mentioned it quite a bit in my rogue guide, so go check it out if you want some other ranger rogue-like stealth builds. But I have to mention this build again for how popular it is and also how strong it can possibly be in Baldur's Gate 3. So let's talk about the benefit of this class combination and what is it overall. So the build revolves around combining the Ranger's Gloomstalker subclass with the Rogue's Assassin with a dip into the Fighter. The success of this class combination comes from the fact that it has great synergies together. Namely, both the Gloomstalker and the Assassin get improved initiative rolls, and they also get bonuses to their first turn action. That, combining with the Fighter's action surge, make them them a force to be reckoned with. So let's list all the advantages. First of all, Gloomstalker Ranger gets to add their wisdom bonus to their initiative rolls, helping them go early. Assassin Rogue gets advantage on any creature that has not yet gone in combat. Gloomstalker Rangers get to make an extra attack on the first turn, and if that hits them, it does an extra 1d8 damage. It's especially deadly if you have the crossbow expert feat or are dual wielding. Then you can make an additional attack using your bonus action. Also, Gloomstalker gets bonuses that make them very difficult to detect in darkness by most creatures, helping them catch their enemy by surprise. Not to mention, the Assassin Rogues get automatic crits if they hit a surprise target, which will happen if you start the combat from stealth. And that will happen often because of Gloomstalker's ability to hide in shadows very well. If you will fight in a dark terrain like the Underdark, you can be sure that you will benefit from all of those things almost all the time. So if you add together, for example, a sample build of Ranger 5, Assassin 3 and Fighter 2, you will get 2 attacks from a level 5 from the Ranger, an additional damage dice from the Gloomstalker, and a bonus action attack if you are wielding dual crossbows or are dual wielding. So that alone will make you have 4 attacks in the opening round. Now, once you grab the fighter levels, you're gonna get additional attacks from the action surge. So you can have an insane opening of 7 attacks on the first combat round. But you have to keep in mind that in order for that to happen, you will have to have quite a bit of levels under your belt. As I said before, you will need to be level 10 in total to execute those 7 attacks. But before that, you will already have a great build on level 8 when you're gonna combine the Gloomstalker with the Assassin features. And starting the game as a Ranger with 5 levels and an extra attack and additional bonuses that Gloomstalker is gonna get is still very good. You can also modify it however you want, as long as you keep those 3 Assassin levels for the bonuses that Assassin will give us. And once again, if you want to min-max or are just a fan of half-orcs, it is looking like a great race for this class combination. Because of the extra crits you inevitably gonna be making on the first turn, especially thanks to the Assassin's critical hits on surprise target effect. Storm Sorcerer mixed with the Tempest Cleric. Now this build will be a bit different from Tabletop, as Baldur's Gate introduces a new condition called Wet, which will make enemies take double damage from lightning and thunder spells when affected by this condition. Now when you combine that with the 2 levels of Tempest Cleric, you will get a Channel Divinity feature which lets you roll maximum damage with your thunder and lightning spells. Which essentially means that if you make enemies wet by throwing a water bottle on them, for example, and then Channel Divinity and cast a spell like Thunder Wave or Lightning Bolt, you are essentially doing 4 times the normal damage. It becomes even stronger when you count in meta magic feats that you will get later on from the Sorcerer. All you need to focus on in this build is a high charisma score, because we won't be using cleric spells offensively, we just take it for proficiencies, useful buffs of course, and the Channel Divinity that enables this build. Start out as a Storm Sorcerer to get all their useful saves and features, most importantly the Constitution saving throw proficiency, and then take 2 levels of Tempest Cleric and finish the build off with going Sorcerer all the way. Warlock Sorcerer, also called the Sorlock. Now this is a very popular build in Tabletop, also called the Coffee Lock. It combines short rest features of the Warlock with Sorcerer for potentially infinite spells. Keep in mind that it will not work exactly the same way in Baldur's Gate 3, as our short rests are limited by our long rest, but it can still be very strong nonetheless. We are going to do the same level split as before, with taking 2 levels of Warlock after starting out as a Sorcerer for improved Eldritch Agonizing Blast to give us a strong spammable ranged option while still having extra spell slots to use as a Sorcerer that will replenish on short rests. With the Quicken spell meta magic, you can become both a powerful blaster while using the Eldritch Blast every turn, followed up by a quickened offensive spell or a buff of your choice, making you a walking arsenal of possibilities. Build number 5, the Barbarian. This build combines going 3 levels of the Barbarian and then finishing the build off with 9 levels of the Moon Druid. What is cool about this combination is that you can rage while shapeshifted, making you an incredible tank, especially if you pick the Bearheart as your subclass choice. I actually talked about it more in my Barbarian guide, you can check it in the description below. The cool part about this build also is that you are not reliant on ability scores, because Wild Shape has their own set of stats, so you can focus on Wisdom and whatever ability scores you prefer outside of Wild Shape, but you will most likely want that Wisdom to still be able to cast offensive and control spells like Entangle as a druid. The common split would be starting out as a Barbarian to grab your subclass and rage features, and then going all the way as a Moon Druid for spells and better Wild Shapes. Sounds like a very fun class to play thematically. Now some bonus information and things you should keep in mind while multiclassing. Before we finish this video, I just wanted to mention that multiclassing does not mean you need to forgo your class identity and split your levels like crazy. Sometimes the strongest multiclassing options will require a single dip into another class. For example, taking just one level of cleric for your wizard to get bonus proficiencies and some useful cantrips without losing your spell progression. Consider the domains of war, tempest or life if you care for heavy armor proficiency, or perhaps knowledge if you want your wizard to be more of a face of the party. Same goes for taking one level from the bard. If you are a charisma based caster, it is something to consider if you want some additional skill expertise. Another example is taking just one level of rogue, which gives you access to proficiency expertise in persuasion, for example, instantly making you quite a smooth talker that doesn't necessarily have to max out charisma if that's what you care about in your playthrough to be able to be the face of the party. You also get a bit more potential damage from sneak attacks, and you can always decide to pick 3 levels of rogue anytime to get that amazing fast hand feature from the thief subclass. And that concludes the builds and ideas I have for you today. Share with me in the comments what are your favorite builds. I would love to see you there and see what you come up with. Also, I would love to thank the Baldur's Gate 3 community as a whole. That includes all of the people commenting on my videos, but also the folk from the Baldur's Gate 3 forums and also the Reddit community, which comes out with some great build ideas. It helps me immensely to create those videos, because I am not all-knowing and I am improving my knowledge every day thanks to all of you. So thank you again for creating this amazing community around this game, and I can't wait to play it with all of you on my streams as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.